This is Red Matter 2, and what you're seeing right now is running natively on the Oculus Quest 2. Yeah, I know, Facebook has dropped the Oculus name and changed it to Meta, but that name is stupid in my opinion. Oculus is way cooler. But anyway, back to the game. The footage you're seeing I recorded directly to the Quest 2 while the game was running on the Quest 2. And the question I keep asking myself is, how did they do this? How did Vertical Robot, the developer, get graphics like this to run on the Quest 2? And when are other developers going to learn from them and create more games that look like this? Red Matter 2 is a cross-buy game, so if you buy it for the Quest 2, you get the PCVR version as well. Which of course begs the question, how does the Quest 2 version compare to the PCVR version? When it comes to the visual fidelity, the PCVR version definitely looks better, assuming you have a gaming PC that can run it at max settings, of course. The Quest 2 version runs at a lower resolution, so the graphics are softer than they are on PC, which is just a nice way of saying they're blurrier. Textures just look sharper and more detailed on PC. However, the dynamic lighting and reflections and imperfections you see on glass and other stuff in the game is all there in the Quest 2 version and looks fantastic. Also, if you get right up close to things, all the detail of the PC version is there, and things actually become quite sharp and clear, and quite frankly look amazing on the Quest 2. Of course, visuals are only one aspect of a game, and arguably not at all important to what makes a game good. So let's talk about whether Red Matter 2 is any good. The game picks up right where the first game ended, which if you haven't played it, I totally recommend you do. You don't have to play the first game though to understand and enjoy this one, since they kind of bring you up to speed right at the beginning of the game. But I feel having that background knowledge does help. Both games are set in a dystopian sci-fi Cold War era, and you play as Sasha Riss, a Volgravian scientist traveling throughout our solar system, trying to figure out what happened to some of your fellow scientists and friends, and discover what your government is covering up about their disappearance and the mysterious substance known as the Red Matter. The game's story is one of the main elements that makes the game worth playing. It's both interesting and unique. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I'll just say this is not a game you want to rush through. You need to take your time. Much of the story you learn through exploring each section of the game and reading notes and different documents you find scattered around. This isn't a movie where the story is spoon-fed to you. You have to uncover the mystery just as you would if you were experiencing it in real life. This is virtual reality, after all. Your scanning tool becomes especially useful for this, as it's your only means of being able to translate and read anything. Besides the story, probably the single most important aspect of any game is the gameplay, and Red Matter 2 delivers some really great gameplay if you're into puzzle games and escape rooms and such. The controls are intuitive and easy to learn, but the thing that makes Red Matter 2 special is its puzzles. The puzzles range from small and simple things like turning knobs to restore power to downed equipment, to properly aligning an inertial frequency tuner cube to overload some kind of energy containment machine, to large platforming puzzles where you have to figure out how to get from point A to point B. My personal favorite puzzle involves flying around this little blimp drone to gain access to the control room it's in. If you take your time, read and examine all the stuff around you, you'll be able to solve most all the puzzles without much issue. There were a few though that got me for a while, and one in particular I just could not figure out and had to look online for a hint. Sound design is another very important factor, and I feel the music, sound effects, and voice acting in Red Matter 2 are all fantastic. The music does a great job of accentuating important moments and helping create the mood and overall atmosphere of the game. One moment that was particularly memorable to me is when you first arrive at Strelka N1, the base you spend the majority of the game exploring. The sense of scale in this game is awesome, and is something that really can only be appreciated in VR. More than once, I found myself just looking around, taking in the sights, and feeling in awe of my surroundings. That not everyone can handle smooth motion in VR like you've been seeing in these clips. It can be very disorienting and even nausea-inducing. The great news is Red Matter 2 has a really good set of comfort options, allowing you to customize your game experience to what is most comfortable for you. There's an option to teleport from one point to another, rather than smoothly walking around. You can change the turning behavior of the right analog stick, adjust the turning speed, and even increase or decrease your walking speed for those that prefer smooth movement. There's a seated mode if you'd rather sit than stand, and another option for those who prefer smooth movement but are still working on getting their VR legs is the blinders. If you're not familiar with this, it blacks out the edges so all you see is what's directly in front of you. You can turn the blinders on or off individually for walking, turning, and flying, and even adjust the size of the blinders to increase or decrease your field of view while moving. The only real complaints I have with this game is some of the puzzles are a bit repetitive, and the combat can be a little frustrating. Or at least I found the combat frustrating on my very first playthrough. When I first played through the game, the gun was super inaccurate, which was very frustrating in some places because you have these drones that you have to first shoot armor off a weak spot on them and then hit that spot again once it's exposed. These weak spots are not very big and the drones are constantly moving around. With the gun being as inaccurate as it was, these segments would sometimes drag on for a pretty long time. As I was going back to capture gameplay for this video though, the game had an update, and I found Vertical Robot has fixed the gun. It shoots way more accurately now because, as you can see from these clips, I was able to dispatch these drones without too much trouble at all. So thanks to the update, I no longer have any complaints about the combat. It's a lot of fun now, and helps add some variety to the gameplay.
That was close.
As for the puzzles I feel are a bit repetitive, the main puzzles I'm referring to are the ones where you have to turn these knobs to properly route power to a panel or console you need to use. This is just a minor complaint though, because they're only used a handful of times, and they aren't overly difficult and do have different solutions each time. Overall, there's a very good variety of puzzles throughout the game, so yeah. Altogether, it took me somewhere between 6 and 8 hours to finish the game, and I enjoyed almost every minute of it. It is a little sad that there's not much replayability to it, since once you know the solution to the puzzles, much of the challenge of the game is lost. I won't say it's a great game, but overall I think Red Matter 2 is a very good game, and one of the best games currently available for the Quest 2, and definitely worth picking up, especially if you like a good puzzle/platformer.